Yo, what's good, my fellow Magic Knights? It is your boy DEADMANVINCE, back with yet another Black Clover themed video, kinda. Today, I want to be giving my thoughts on a very odd topic that I just thought of randomly, right? This spawned in out of nowhere. But, what would Asta's curse technique be? Now that sounds really odd. Yes, I'm talking about Asta from Black Clover. What would his curse technique be in JJK? So first, let me give a little background on where this idea even started. Basically, I was just sitting there thinking like, damn, what am I gonna do to bring relevance to Black Clover? I don't know. Like, I feel like the universe kind of gives you side quests sometimes, and sometimes you ignore the side quest, and then sometimes you like come back to side quest. And I feel like it's always been like a side quest to like try to find a way to bring relevance back to Black Clover, because the manga itself is not doing a very good job of doing that right now. So I thought, why not reference it with another wonderful show that is still very popular, even though it's already done, JJK, right? So I'm going to be breaking down kind of like why Asta would function the way he functions, what his curse technique would be, because your curse technique is literally going to be based on your soul, your personality, and all that stuff, right? And I'll even try to incorporate Libe as like a cursed spirit instead of a devil or something like that, and just see how it works. But to begin, I think that Asta's curse technique would would manifest kind of like a Shikigami type of deal, but not a Shikigami in the sense that he's summoning Libe, more in a Shikigami like he's summoning, because that's kind of basic, I feel like. Because with Geto, who can literally eat cursed spirits and then use cursed spirits, even if they're like famous cursed spirits, right? Versus Asta would be able to manifest his swords like Shikigami. I'm not going to include Yami's sword just because he recently got that one at the end of the story. I'm just going to go based off of the first three swords just to make it a little simpler, because the first three swords have like known effects already, right? So the first sword that Asta can manifest will be like the Claymore style sword, and maybe he manifested and he likes to keep the swords out, you know, on his person, right? Or honestly, it would be closer to Black Clover's rules if he did just manifest the swords, kind of like Shikigami, and just summon the swords out of like thin air, kind of like Gilgamesh from Fate Stay. Even though I've never watched Fate Stay, so don't mistake it or confuse me or anything like that. But basically, Asta will be able to summon these three swords like Shikigami, and each one of the swords will be able to do a different thing, right? So just like Asta's first sword can deflect magic, Asta's first sword would be able to deflect curse techniques, because that is, yeah, because magic, I guess in Black Clover, you kind of have like, so in Black Clover, the breakdown is ki is just basic life vital energy, mana is ki after your body has already done an automated process to turn it into a fuel source for you to do spells, and then the magic comes out in spells. But in Black Clover, some people don't even have to do spells, because people can do things before they get their grimoire. Some people just kind of get their magical nature, and then are able to use just like the element in general. Whereas in JJK, it's usually not recommended for you to just use raw cursed energy. But this man Yuji, for instance, was putting it on his fist and just boxing motherfuckers. So you can still do it, it's just not as recommended in honestly in either. Honestly, it's not like people tell you to go around without your grimoire, and that's why they don't let you go to try and be a magic knight until you get your grimoire. So it's not really encouraged in either show. Asta did not have an understanding of magic at the beginning of the series, because obviously he doesn't have magic in his body, so he cannot understand that concept. But Yami explained the concept of ki to Asta, which is just life energy, which Asta understood. Which means that if we're relating this one-to-one, right? Because I just broke down ki, mana, spells, magic, right? So instead on JJK, it's negative emotions is ki, because that is the source of all cursed energy, and literally is what cursed spirits' bodies are composed of, negative emotions from humans. Then your negative emotions are channeled into cursed energy, and then your cursed energy is produced in cursed techniques. But like I said, Yuji put it on his fist and he will fight, so you can also just use cursed energy on your like fist also, right? A few things that I will say. Since Asta understands how ki works, that means that he understands mana on a higher application than mages understand it in his series, if they even understand it. Because you got to think, they're born with that, so that's just a natural thing they do. So they do understand it, but it's subconscious. Asta is forced to understand it on a conscious level. So he can consciously do those things and work it into a subconscious system, which kind of makes it maybe a little stronger for him, right? But basically, since Asta is able to think on that level intentionally about the power system itself, if Asta were in the JJK universe, I have no doubt in my mind that Asta would be able to use reverse curse technique. Just because that requires you to not use the positive emotions that's not the thing in JJK. That's not an equation at all. It's negative emotion times negative emotion. So it still is a matter of negative emotions and cursed energy. It's just multiplying it by itself to reproduce lost biomass, basically. But I believe that Asta's technique would be called the Blades of the King or something like that, right? Because like he wants to be a wizard king, right? But instead he could be like the king of the cursed spirits or something like that. And it would be ironic because he wouldn't be trying to take Sukuna's place, but he low-key would kind of be taking Sukuna's place, because Sukuna started out as a human and then became, let's talk about like exercise plans. Sukuna started out as a human and became a curse after killing like hella curses. That's some like a Rancor shit from Bleach or something like that, right? But like Asta would be deflecting cursed energy with his first blade. His second blade would be able to absorb cursed energy and turn it into fuel for himself. And then the third blade can take away the after effects of like spells. So like the way that they kind of show that is somebody got poisoned from a spell and then Asta touched the person who got poisoned with his sword, and then literally, so I guess rather it can stop the effects of a technique after the effects have already gone through. It can reverse the effects, basically. So what would the third sword do in JJK? Honestly, I'm going to take an interesting little turn here and make it headcanon here, kind of, go off the rails a little bit. Sword 1 deflects curse energy, curse techniques. Sword, and that doesn't just look like, I was just cutting through your hand, but like, I mean, he could, it's a sword. But like more so, like say you send it, say Yuta like sends a beam or something like that, Asta can deflect that, yes. But like say Yuji punches Asta with cursed energy on his hand, like Yuji's essentially when he's gonna punch Asta's sword, he's just going to feel Asta's blade straight up on his hand. No cursed energy involved in the matter. Okay, then the second sword can absorb, maybe because that's crazy. How do you absorb a cursed technique? Maybe it can just absorb the cursed energy in the area, and when Asta trains it enough, it can eat away the cursed energy of a domain and break the barrier, or find a weak point in the barrier or something like that, right? But the third sword could be a sword that increases Asta's physical attributes via a binding vow. When he uses the third sword, his physical capabilities are amplified in proportion to his cursed energy output or something like that, right? I feel like that'd be really cool. So sword 1, deflect. Sword 2, absorb. Sword 3, proportional stat buff, right? So these would be the Blades of the King, because Asta because I feel like the name of your technique in your soul. Like literally, Fushiguro's technique was passed down to him. It's the Ten Shadows technique. The whole clan knows that technique. So I feel like rather than who you are as a person, I feel like more so your technique has its own name, it has its own energy, its own aura, right? So even though Asta would not want to be like the King of Curses, I feel like his technique would be called like Blades of the King or some shit like that, because it would be like crazy enough to cut down the King of Curses himself or something like that, right? And it fits Asta's personality because he does want to be the Wizard King. He does want to strive for, and this would automatically make Asta a special grade, because this would be the first instance that we've seen of Shikigami that are just like, that aren't even like, literally these weapons don't exist in like an armory somewhere or nothing like that. Like you can't take them from him. Those are just his weapons. That would be even crazier than Black Clover, because Asta's weapons are actually physical weapons. Once he puts them in his book, they're his, but even still, Lit took one of Asta's swords and like used it against them. So it's like you wouldn't be able to take these swords from him. It maybe be like solo leveling, how Jinwoo always throws his sword away and then always like summons it back to his hand, like basically that, right? But Asta would also eventually through absorbing cursed energy and fighting curses, of course, because Asta is going to be exposing himself to a lot more pure, raw, cursed energy than the regular person, because not only does one of his blades literally leverage on the fact of him stealing your cursed energy, you got to think he's going to be using that sword in tandem. All the swords are important, right? Because to be able to deflect cursed techniques is very important. But the second sword is especially important because in combo with the third sword is game over. In combo with the third sword, if you can theoretically say you kill a cursed spirit, right? Cursed spirit becomes just pure cursed energy, negative emotion, whatever, that's eaten by your sword and literally just stored into your natural cursed energy reserve. And time after time after time after time, you're literally just boosting your max cursed energy reserve by a certain number. Like, you're getting a literal stat buff to your shit, dude. You're literally upgrading, kind of like a solo leveling, right? But if your maximum cursed energy output is 5,000, we're just gonna give random numbers, 5,000, and the physical sword, the third sword, is literally giving you a physical boost in proportion to that 5,000. What do you think is going to happen with the physical buff you get from the third sword when you change your actual cursed energy 5,000 to like 10,000 or something like that? You know how Rika eats curses and shit like that, and you can copy the techniques? Imagine instead of something eating the curses that Asta is defeating, imagine Asta's sword is literally just absorbing the raw cursed energy off of that shit and essentially adding the raw cursed energy to this man's own cursed energy reserve and allowing him to have a higher cursed energy reserve, which in the long run is going to make the third sword more effective. But also you can literally, like, in the middle of murdering a bunch of curses, you can make that shit more effective right there, right? But I think he'll be able to summon all three of those at will. Maybe if he trains it hard enough, he can use them to the extent that he uses them in Black Clover. Of course he could, right? Because he does use them to that extent already. So he can maybe, fly on one of the swords and summon multiple swords at the same time and shit. Because, like, when you start doing shit like that, it's done, bro. Like, you summon the second and third sword at the same time, and you're literally just, like, slicing through demons or cursed spirits or whatever. And as you're killing those cursed spirits, the second sword is literally absorbing that energy, and the power of the third sword is getting stronger, or making you stronger at the same time, making it easier as you're fighting. Like, infinite energy back. What does that man Digi be saying? An infinite I can't think of it. I'll look it up before the end of the video and say what I'm trying to say about Denji from Chainsaw Man, what he always says. But eventually, through all the negative energy that Asta absorbs into his body, or the raw cursed energy that Asta is absorbing into his body, he will eventually manifest a cursed spirit from his soul, and that would be like the Shikigami that is created, but it is its own, like, kind of like cursed spirit, like, entity, right? But it's going to, because if curses are naturally made off of the negative emotions of humans, and literally just the negative emotions, feelings, whatever, and it manifests into actual cursed spirits, then imagine it as this entity, this cursed spirit that forms within Asta would be based off of it would be some Chainsaw Man shit, now that I'm thinking about it. But it's like, literally, the cursed spirit born from this is not even born from negative emotions from humans. It's born from the negative emotions from the curses that Asta is consistently, like, killing, right? And it's being channeled through the sword and tempered, so it's like literally going through Asta's soul, kind of like a ore refinement process. So it's like this cursed spirit has been emerging or forming inside of Asta's soul this entire time, kind of like some Yuji Sukuna situation where, like, two things are having one soul shared, right? It's kind of like that man has been forming inside of Yuji's soul inside of Asta's soul until one point it finally manifested itself and actually, like, kind of like introduced itself. Kind of like how Sukuna talks to Yuji inside of his own soul, right? But what would the curse's name be? I mean, it could be love, it could be leave, it could be whatever, because literally that's what it is. But basically, at the point that the curse does that, now all of a sudden you have a new player in the game, and now I'm going to introduce something. It's crazy. Asta's the first video, and obviously since Asta's power is so cracked, his shit is just the most, like, off the wally shit you ever heard, right? But since Asta has a cursed spirit that is working in tandem with him, imagine the capability of a combo domain where Asta does his domain. Oh, dude. Basically, the domain would be Coffin of the Damned. And Coffin of the Damned would basically be a zone where Asta is literally just running hands with you. Because, like, Asta's a ghoul with the hands any fucking way, right? But not only is he running the hands with you, but this man also has the first sword, kind of like a rune at the top of his domain, right? And the first sword is literally nullifying you from doing any curse techniques. Like, it's like the deflection is on a 1,000,000,000%, right? And quite literally, you can't even release a curse technique from your body. Like, this is to the extent like Sukuna can't dismantle in this shit. Like Sukuna, maybe Sukuna and Gojo specifically could break their domain because Asta would be student level. Asta's young as shit, but Asta would still be special grade. But basically, the first sword would be up in the air, protecting the Asta pretty much. That's the sure hit of the technique. It's that. And then the second part of the technique, the secondary domain, because as we know, domains don't always have to be like a zone. So first is Asta's domain of creating the zone called Coffin of the Damned. And it's called Coffin of the Damned because, one, the entity that manifested, the Shikigami that manifested from Asta's soul is now in there, and that Shikigami is the Coffin of the Damned because it is an accumulation of all the excess pure cursed energy from all the cursed spirits that Asta has been fighting, right? And then you also have like the actual domain itself is the Coffin of the Damned because it sealed away the enemy's curse technique, and that's just a surefire. And Asta's like that confident in his fighting ability, he's about to like body your ass with the other two blades. But the entity inside of the domain literally does its own domain, and it's like no boundary or some shit like that, because they always talk about surpassing your limits. So the devil's domain would be like no boundary, or the curse spirit, my bad, would be no boundary, and it literally fuse with Asta, and it'd just be like devil fusion. But so it would be Asta with the first sword, which can absorb your curse energy, right? Then yeah, because even if you can't release the curse technique from your body, you can still be using curse energy to enforce your body, enhance your body, right? So if you're doing that, every time Asta cuts you with the sword, if you let him touch you with the sword, you know, he can sap away a little bit of that curse energy, especially when you're inside of his domain, where your curse technique is like your basic curse technique functions aren't going to be like halved. It would be like maybe like 3/4 of the typical like efficiency, right? And also your curse technique is also just fucked. It's just not going to work, right? The only way out of it is if your domain is just stronger, or you have like some shit like Fuga or something like that, right? But basically, this man Asta is going to not only be using the second sword to shave away your cursed energy over time inside of his domain. He's going to be using the third sword, which is going to be giving him the crazy physical fortitude. And inside of his domain, shoot, who knows? He may even be up to the level where he can literally fight a heavenly restriction user inside of his domain with this type of shit that I'm giving him, right? But then also with the added cursed energy reinforcement from the cursed spirit itself, pretty much becoming fused with cursed spirits, that will literally, unironically, make this man Asta the closest thing to Sukuna in the series, because he's literally like a cursed spirit at that point if he's fusing with one, right? But that's kind of it, I think, for my idea here for Asta skills and domain. So the technique is Blades of the King, the domain is Coffin of the Damned, and then the Devil's domain is No Boundary. So it would just fuse with Asta, it'd just be Devil Union. Or honestly, it can just be Cursed Union, Cursed Spirit, Soul Union. There we go. We just had to find it. And also, the thing that Denji said in Chainsaw Man that I was referencing earlier is, I've accidentally completed a perpetual motion machine. Perpetual motion machine is what I was looking for earlier, chat. But that's gonna be it for your boy DEADMANVINCE. I'm just gonna do more of these videos like this. It doesn't matter what the real response to these videos are. I just kind of want to do this. I just think it's interesting, and I don't see anybody else doing it, so we're just gonna do what we do. But you guys get ready for the next one. We'll see who the next character is. Peace out.